Welcome to the People-Powered Community Podcast, where we dive into the inspiring stories of go-to-market professionals who have leveraged their skills to create strong and lasting connections within their community. Get ready to be inspired and learn how you too can harness your business superpower for good.
Hello, and welcome to the People-Powered Community Podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Greenwood, CEO and founder of Chief Evangelist Consulting. And today I'm very excited to be joined by the Senior Director of Customer Marketing and Community at 6sense, Heather Foeh. Welcome, Heather.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited for our chat.
Oh, me too. And I always like to say a little bit of how we got connected, because most of the guests so far I know in some respect. And I think this was like Catherine Bennett introduced us, and then all of a sudden we were chatting, and then you made an introduction, and then we were on a panel, and now I think we're best friends.
Yeah, exactly. We're in it together.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I love it. It was a good connection.
Yeah.
Hey, Catherine, if you're watching.
Yes. Well, and I think we're going to be talking about connection today. So that's a great transition right into what one of our topics is. So I guess first thing, customer marketing and communities. For the listeners out there that may not know exactly what customer marketing is and how that goes with communities, can you give us a quick rundown? And that could be from your perspective, how you do it at 6sense, because that may be different than the way other people, or if there's a general definition that we could all learn from.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think how we're doing it at 6sense is pretty standard. So I'll kind of take it from that standpoint. My team is in charge of all the post-sale customer comms.
Okay.
So things that, you've got demand gen marketing that's reaching out to prospects and keeping them, engaged in events and things. My team does that for customers. So we've got events, activities, webinars, nurture campaigns, all in service of adoption of the product that they have purchased, making sure they're using what they bought, and also upselling and cross-selling, like something they may not have, or a new feature that we've rolled out, or a new add-on. And so our goal is always to support them in what they already have, help them expand, if that makes sense for what they're doing. And so that's the kind of the customer marketing, the basic piece. Also aligned with that is we support the references that the sales team needs. Okay. So for that, we tap into our advocates. So we have a whole advocacy function on my team of people that are speaking for us at events, or doing the reference calls, or giving quotes to the media. So we got a group focused on that. We have the customer advisory board, getting input from other people. So it's pretty broad. And then when you tack communities onto it, that's where we're trying to do things at scale, right? So we're trying to do that very much in a one-to-many way. So we have a community for our customers, call it Rev City. I'll probably just slip up and say Rev City at some point here today. And that's our customer community. But we also run a very specific community for CMOs called the CMO Coffee Talk. It's been going for a few years now. And we've launched one for BDR leaders. So it's the BDR Leader Coffee Talk that happens every other week. So my team is busy at all of these fun things, but it's so great to have that opportunity to work with customers. Like, I figured that out years ago in my career and haven't looked back. Never want to go back to just regular marketing.
I love it. Do you also, just for my curiosity, do you also support like renewals and things like that? So renewals and retention, is that something you focus on too?
It is, in a way that we're focused on getting people to use what they currently have and what they've purchased. And so that's in service of renewal. So one of the things that we measure is cohorts of people that participated in activities. What is their renewal rate compared to those who did not?
Got it.
So we're doing that in support of the CS team. So we work very closely with the customer success organization and hear what they need. And, we're constantly making sure that we're all synced up on our topics.
Got it. Well, that's a lot. And so how many people on your team? Because you're the largest, probably marketing team, sub-marketing team, I already know. So.
Yes. So there are 6 of us, including me. So 5 underneath me. And I'm not gonna lie, I wish we had one more. So if my peeps are listening, we're lean and mean though. I mean, we're doing a lot with that number of people. So
that's awesome. It's great to hear. I think it's like my community and CS dream to have that type of marketing, supporting the CS team. I can't even imagine what that would look like and feel like to be able to have someone dedicated to that resource.
Yeah, well, it's such an important resource. I mean, especially in a downturn economy, where do people focus? They focus on their current customer base, preserving them,
right.
But also, is there any potential extra income that we can get from that group? And so it's a very, very important marketing functions. And, so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, outside of 6th Sense, let's get to know you. Tell us who you are, what you're doing now. We obviously know what you're doing job-wise, and then how you got there.
Interesting. So I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and that's always a big conversation starter for people. I think they're like, people live in Las Vegas? And so we moved here from Texas 9.5 years ago. And really, my husband and I just love outdoorsy stuff. We have a Airstream trailer. We named her Audrey the Airstream. And we like to camp in the middle of nowhere. And Nevada is 90% public land. So you can camp out on this BLM land or we're at open lands and camp for a week or two at a time without any problem. So we do that a lot. We hike in the desert a lot, and it's a great jumping off point for Southern California and Utah and Arizona. So we have loved it out here.
That's
lots of sunshine and lots of open spaces. So I have 2 grown kids. One of them lives here and one lives in Austin. They're both doing great in life and are happy and healthy. So that's wonderful. My husband and I are celebrating 33 years this summer. So I had to do the math, 33 years. So
congrats.
Thanks. And I don't know, let's kind of build to the basics.
Yeah.
For fun, I'm a Lego nerd. So here's some Legos back behind me.
Okay.
Van Gogh's Starry Night and some flowers, and done all the Harry Potter sets.
Wait, are those flowers made of Legos?
Yeah, flowers.
I did not get that at all.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's really cool.
So, yeah.
What kind of brought you into customer marketing and community? Like where did your journey start? I don't think customer marketing probably existed when you and I started out in our careers.
Nope, it did not. You are correct. I started out doing demand gen marketing, and we needed a tool to automate things. This was in 2005, and we looked at Eloqua. And at the time, we couldn't afford it. We bought a competitor. And a year later, we finally got on the Eloqua train. And that was a whole community opened up to me of this new world of marketing automation that did not exist before. And used it for a couple of years, and then was asked to join Eloqua to lead customer success for SMB customers. I had been an SMB customer, a smaller company, and to lead the CS department for that segment. I had never done customer success before. I had no idea what I was doing. Customer success was sort of newish anyway. Not that many people had done.
I'm like, I don't even think customer success knew what it was doing then. Yeah.
Totally. Yes. And so, I think I took a lot of my life skills, I would say, into that. Like, here's an example. My mom drilled into me from early age, you always write a thank you note for a gift, or when someone has you to stay at their house or whatever, write a handwritten thank you note. I'm still a big handwritten thank you note person. And I started doing that for some customers. Like, as a customer would renew, I would send them a handwritten thank you note, And so those little things that I just knew from regular life served me well in my business life and helped me start making those connections, which is, I know, one of our topics today.
That's awesome. How big was Eloqua at that time when you were building that out?
I think we had about 1,300 customers at the time.
Okay.
There were about 300 in my portfolio. And we learned pretty early on, I think at that time, there's maybe 15, 16 CSMs in total across the whole customer base. And every CSM was sort of treating their own book of business like their own book of business, like their own little marketing world, right? Like, this CSM would do a webinar for their people, and this CSM would send an email to their people. And after about a year and a half of that, I kind of looked around and I'm like, everyone's got great ideas. Can we not elevate some of those ideas and do them for everybody? And that was my first foray of saying, hey, I want to do that. And I think we should probably call it customer marketing, And so that was the birth of that. And as part of rolling that out, one of the very first things we needed to do was build a community for our customers. So we built something called Top Liners. Still one of my proudest accomplishments today was the launch of that. And because it really enabled that self-serve customers being able to do things themselves, but also help us scale. Like it was just such a big scaling effort, and customers talking to each other. So fun. Love seeing all those connections happening there.
What year was that you built that community?
It launched in 2010, January 2010.
You were way ahead on the community front.
Yeah.
Way ahead.
And it was fun days.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think what I've said a couple times lately is like, what's old is new. So, the things that we think about like connection and community and, you're sick. And so I bring you a pie and these things that make a difference, handwritten notes, are really coming kind of back around. And so it's so interesting to see, those thoughts back in 2010 and then how it's really evolved now and how people, especially in, the world that maybe you and I live in B2B tech SaaS, that they're just now starting to come around and understand the value of what community can mean to a business.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a tie into the pandemic too.
Of course.
People got some of their connectedness in offices and traveling and going to conferences and things. And without that, and there was a pretty big gap for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And think of all the things you've learned at a conference or something, chatting with somebody and just making conversation over lunch. Where do you do that without those things? And I feel like that's contributed to the resurgence of community efforts lately.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about your superpower. We talked a little bit before, but let's hear from you. What would you say your superpower is?
I think my superpower is connecting people, connections. That's how
we met.
Yeah, it is. There's a perfect example, right? Yeah, love that.
Okay. How does that play out in your, I guess, first, let's say, how does that play out in your work life? So within 6 Sense in the role that you have there, tell us about that.
It's definitely how I got this job, interestingly. Okay. So I had a long-time connection with Matt Hines of Hines Marketing, known him from way back in the Eloqua days. And he helps run the CMO Coffee Talk. And they were going to be talking about community. And he's like, oh, Heather started Topliners. I want to have her come to that. And that's a connection I made a very long time ago with Matt Hines and have kept up over the years at conferences and things. And so spoke on a CMO Coffee Talk about community and got a call from Latney Conant, the CMO at 6 Sense, said, come do that here, So it served me well. But I think in a work life thing, I'm constantly having a conversation with someone. I think, Leslie, I've done it with you recently. 100%. I was like, oh, you should talk to Jill Rowley. Yep. She also is great with this stuff and knows a lot of people and wants to do these things. Right. And it's like, once I talk to someone, I immediately, for some reason, can see like the other person or two that they should talk to. And I don't even consciously think about it. It just happens. And it gives me so much joy to make those connections and then hear back. I heard back from both you and Jill, like, that was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. You were right. We totally hit it off, right? And I'm like, oh, my work here is done. Thank you. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think of it because I think I have similar, what I think is one of my superpowers. And I feel like it's like Tetris. In your brain, you've got these little blocks going and you're like, oh, click. And you're like, yeah, it's like you get a gold star or something for making that click connection. Yep. When the people get together and it creates something, it's just like magical.
Yep. It really is.
Do you do much of that within the community? Is that something that you and your team as part of the community do as well?
Yes. So I think this is an area we need to work on in our Rev City community in particular. I think there's some good things happening with the CMO Coffee Talk and the BDR Leader Coffee Talk, because those are, it's not a online forum. It is a Zoom call, right? So people have the opportunity to chat with each other. And so I think our Rev City community that we launched in October, I've noticed that we're doing a good job getting information and people are asking questions. How do I do this? And other people are answering. We haven't got the human connection piece yet. And we just brainstormed 3 new ideas this week that we're going to roll out. So, tiny, small one, but I think we're going to like allow people to upload their face for an avatar. We had these like pre-designed cool avatars and that were very diverse and representative. And I think we're missing the people side of that by not having, like, it's a small thing, but there's, that's one of the things that we're going to make a change on. And I think it was, looking back, one of the big successes of Topliners was that human side of things. People would even post on there like, we bought a new house, yay. And then everyone else would pile on, because there was this kind of a personal area where you could post things and a little activity stream. And I think we need more of that now, because that's what keeps you coming back.
Right.
That's why people come to the CMO Coffee Talk for years, week after week. I mean, to get 300 CMOs on a call every week is crazy. But they feel a connection and they feel supported by each other, and they know what's going on in each other's lives. And if someone got a new job and things, so we need more of that in our customer community. And I think we've got some good ideas to get that started.
I love that. That's really, as I talk to companies, and, I'm like, unless you have HubSpot, you are HubSpot, Salesforce, or Notion, your product is not the glue that's going to stick this together. And probably not even your company is going to be the glue. It's going to be these connections. And so I love that. And it's so funny you mentioned the avatars, because that's how, like, when I go to conferences and I see people, I see, of course, them in person. I see their name on their tag. And then my brain goes to what their picture looks like on Slack. And so for me, that's like the identifying factor that connects the in-life person with the, in-person person. So I love that idea. And I love that, even though, how many people are in your community?
We have about 2,500 now.
Yeah. So I love that.
It's good. It's been growing very steadily.
I did not know it's only 5 months old. I thought you were much more mature than that. Yeah. So the fact that you're taking that kind of personal approach and really thought patterns into a community that's already there and established and at that scale, to go and create those connections with people, like, just makes my heart so happy. Yeah. It's what I love.
Connection people unite.
Yeah. Connection people. Let's get people connected and feel a certain way about our brand that enables them to want to go talk about us and, come back and time again. So what are the things, or actually, you know what, how do you think this superpower came to be? Like, when did you notice it? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's interesting. I alluded to it a minute ago that when I first became a customer of Eloqua, this was early days of marketing automation. So it was a new function for a lot of people and a new world. And I think that allowed, like, I got involved. I was living in Austin, Texas at the time, and I got involved in the user group there. And that was a great, that was my first sort of like, oh, I can connect to other people besides just the people I work with. Like, I make connections at work, but not outside with other people in my profession. And so being in those user groups, then I started realizing, like, the Austin tech scene it's a small world. Like, everybody knows everybody, And so we started having happy hours together or meeting up at different things. And so I think that was the first time where I realized the beauty of it, and, like, pretty soon could help someone would come to me and be like, hey, we're hiring for something. Do you know of someone who's good at this? Oh, I actually do. So-and-so at this company is good at that. That's my favorite connection to make.
Yes.
I love that one for sure.
Do you ever feel like you should have been a recruiter in your other life? Or actually,
maybe, yeah.
Or actually tally in your brain how much you could have made last year as a recruiter with all the connections you made?
Seriously. My favorite one is my friend Jocelyn Brown. She and I go way back to Eloqua days. When I ran SMB CS, she ran strategic. And years ago, I was interviewing for a job at Allocadia. And they needed someone to come in and run customer success, customer marketing. And I interviewed and I really liked them. And how sometimes you're just like, this isn't the right time or the right spot for me. And I finished the day by telling him, thank you, but I know who the right person is for you. It's Jocelyn Brown. And I think about 6 weeks later, she was working there and worked there for 5 years. So it was one of my best connections that I'm most proud of.
Yes. Oh, that's great. I love that. That's there's really just no better feeling. And I think in today's tech world and tech scene, it's like the ability to do that and helping people, all the people that got laid off, helping a person or two can really like make a huge difference for someone. So, yeah, that's amazing.
Totally.
How do you, actually, what do you feel like you do anything to kind of like feed that superpower or keep it nurtured? Or is it just so autonomic for you that it's not something you think about?
It's funny. I was definitely thinking about that in prep for today. And maybe that's part of what makes it a superpower is like, you don't have to think about it. It comes very naturally.
True.
And, I mean, I definitely keep it from a work perspective. I keep an eye on LinkedIn, who's going where and who needs a job and who's, looking for jobs and stuff. So I think that keeps me kind of up to date with some people for sure. But I often, when I first meet someone in a work perspective, I do like to talk to them about their personal life because that's what sticks with me. We have a new employee at 6 Sense. She started last week. She and I met this morning. She's in the UK. So, coffee for me. And, I told her she could have beer, but it wasn't quite late enough in the day for her. But, and so we chatted and we really talked a bit about getting to know each other just personal. Her 2 kids are very close together in age. My 2 were very close together in age. And we hit it off from that personal perspective. And that's frankly what's going to stick with me. Like, I know she does partnerships. I know that we'll interact in a personal way, in a professional way in the future. But knowing that about her that's where it's stuck into my head.
Yeah.
You know how you like have the little Rolodex in your head of different people. And for me, I need the personal piece. And I will pretty much always start out by having those conversations. I know your daughter swims, we've talked about that. Right. And so that sticks with me. I know Catherine Bennett likes to lift weight, and so those are, I think I never want to give up starting out conversations with just a little personal piece.
It's like almost the anchor. So it's like the anchor for the story is the personal thing. And I love that you said Rolodex because it's like almost like you have this like unconscious Rolodex in the back of your mind that's just rolling. You're like, oh, bing, match. It's great. So, well, does this, I guess, how do you think this integrates with how you think about community?
I mean, community it's connection, right? I think that, and to my point a second ago, like, I think that's the little piece that's missing right now in our Rev City community is that connection. But community is that, like, I feel like I'm in a community of customer marketers because it's a very subgenre of marketing, right? Other people that I've worked with in the past will reach out to me and be like, hey, I have a new young customer marketer on my team. Can you meet with her and chat with her? Or it's usually a her. So I'm using that specifically. Right. And then, and just kind of help them get up to speed and I'll talk with them. And then, a month later, I'll talk with another one and I'll be like, oh, you two you're right about the same age of your career, or you're trying to solve direct mail and they've already solved direct mail. You guys should talk to each other. Right. And so I feel like I'm in my own community of customer marketing, and just because we all have some kind of niche together, but we work at it, and so I think those kind of connections, I don't know. I do feel like I thought about it leading up to today, and I was like, I do feel like that's my tribe and my people, even though we don't have a forum, we don't have a thing that we go to, but we know that we can rely on each other, and we built up those relationships over the years. So.
Now, for our last question, if I was to take away one key aspect of your superpower, what advice would you give me if I were thinking like I'm at home and I'm listening and I'm like, oh, I kind of like to do that too. Like, what kind of advice or what would be a takeaway you'd give me to help me work on that?
I think like any superpower or habit, it's practice, right? So think about right now, is there someone you've talked to in the last month that you could introduce to someone you've talked to in the last 3 months? Is there some connection there? Or is there someone that you talked to a few weeks ago that was really interesting, and now you can be on the lookout in the next few weeks for the right connection there? It's when you're open to something like that, it's amazing how often it happens. I find there's this serendipity that happens when you open yourself up to it. And if you think, oh, I really had a good conversation with Leslie, I wonder if there's someone I can connect her to because that was really worthwhile. then Jill Rowley comes in and connected me with someone else. And I said, oh, you know who you need to talk to? You need to talk to Leslie. And so I think it just happens when you're open to it. So be open to it and then act, do it, make the connection. Say, I think you two would have a great time together and talk about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I think also adding the personal anchors or whatever, like anchors, the information for someone. And then the other thing is like, if you're not the person that has the mental Rolodex Tetris brain, then make some notes. Like there's someone that you really think like, I like them. I would like to add value to them in the future. Like just, I mean, most of my HubSpot CRM notes say, so-and-so is really nice. They seem to be really open. You know, like they almost always start off with something about their person or whatever. So it's like maybe make a note in your, you know, on a Post-it or in your CRM that's something, that little dollop of information that you could remember that maybe would like click you over to make that connection too.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. Such a good suggestion for sure. I definitely have a bunch of notes like that when I first meet the lady that I met today who has kids that are close in age. That was the first thing I typed into my notes, you know, and so next time when I chat with her, I'll be reminded of it and it'll double solidify in there. So,
exactly. Yeah. There are no numbers or data in our first line of any of our notes.
Totally. 100%. You named it. You nailed it right on.
Well, I think it's sometimes to my benefit and sometimes to my detriment. So, Heather, this has been such a terrific episode. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story and your superpower with our listeners. I think that there's so many people that probably have that attribute that don't think about it, or that would love to have the attribute either for personal or professional reasons. So I'm glad you brought that to us today.
Well, good.
Yeah. Where's the best place
tell them to connect with me. I'm happy to chat more about it.
I was just going to ask
Give me another connection.
Where should people find you?
LinkedIn is always good. The beauty of my crazy last name is that I'm the only Heather Foeh out there on LinkedIn, so you can easily find me.
That is awesome. So, well, thank you all for watching the episode. We will be back next week with another guest, and we thank you for listening.